Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today we'll be continuing the same lesson that I had done in the last week. What is moral action, which was written by Mahatma Gandhi. So if you have not watched the first part, I request you to please go back to my channel and watch it. The ones who have watched it, let's continue with the second part. These reflections prove that it is not enough for a moral act to have been done with a good intention, but it should have been done without compulsion. There is no morality whatever in my act if I rise early out of the fear that if I am late for my office, I may lose my situation. Similarly, there is no morality in my living a simple and unpretentious life if I have not the means to live otherwise. But plain, simple living would be moral if, though wealthy, I think of all the want and misery in the world about me and feel that I ought to live a plain, simple life and not one of ease and luxury. Likewise, it is only selfish and not moral of an employer to sympathize with his employees or to pay them higher wages lest they leave him. It would be moral if the employer wished well of them and treated them kindly, realizing how he owed his prosperity to them. This means that for an act to be moral, it has to be free from fear and compulsion. When the peasants rose in revolt and with bloodshot eyes went to King Richard II of England, demanding their rights, he granted them the rights under his own seal and signature. But when the danger was over, he forced them to surrender the letters. It would be a mistake for anyone to say that King Richard's first act was moral and the second immoral, for his first act was done only out of fear and had not an iota of morality about it. Now, in this paragraph, he is trying to tell us that whatever good intention you have, whatever good you want to do, it cannot be done with fear or compulsion. So there won't be any morality in your act if you have fear. So he's giving an example that with fear, if I wake up early, if I rise early so that I'll be late for my office, then I lose my morality there. Why? It's not a moral act. Why? Because I am doing it because of fear. I might lose the job. That's why. Here he is giving another example, saying that a person chooses to live a very plain, simple life, even though he is wealthy. He has all the money, the wealth, treasure, everything. But still he wants to live a very simple life without any luxury. Then his act is moral. And it shouldn't be just for namesake. He gives another example, that is of an employer. He is trying to sympathize with his employees and he is giving them higher wages. He is doing this because of his own intention. Then yes, his act can be considered as moral. But if he is giving high wages to the employees just because in the fear that they might leave him, they might leave the job, then that act cannot be said as moral. But if he truly wishes good about his employees, then that is considered as moral. So here he wants to say that the morality should be free from fear and compulsion. There shouldn't be any fear. So he gives one more example during the King Richard II of England. So it was the peasants who rose in revolt, and at that time King Richard, he under his own seal and signature, he granted them the rights, or when they fought for their rights. But when as soon as the danger was over, what he did is he forced those peasants to surrender the letters that were given under his seal. So nobody can say that his first act, the support that he gave to the peasants in the first, was moral, because it wasn't. He did it because of fear, and it doesn't have even an inch of morality in it. Just as a moral action should be free from fear or compulsion, so should there be no self-interest behind it. This is not to say that actions prompted by self-interest are all worthless, but only that to call them moral would detract from the dignity of the moral idea. That honesty cannot long endure, which is practiced in the belief that it is the best policy. As Shakespeare says, love born out of the profit motive is no love. As said in the previous paragraph, moral action should be free from fear. So it shouldn't have self interest. It should be free from that too. You cannot accept something from the good that you do. It's not like I do something good and I want something in return. No, it should be free of interest. You cannot think that whatever you do, you want something in return. No. As William Shakespeare, he too had said that love born out of profit motive is no love. If you are expecting something from the things that you're doing, then that is wrong. You won't get it. That is not the correct policy. Just as an action prompted by the motive of material gain here on earth is non-moral, so also another done for considerations of comfort and personal happiness in another world is non-moral. That action is moral which is done only for the sake of doing good. A great Christian, Saint Francis Xavier, passionately prayed that his mind might always remain pure. For him, devotion to God was not for enjoying a higher seat after death. He prayed because it was man's duty to pray. The great Saint Teresa wished to have a torch in her right hand and a vessel of water in her left, so that with the one she might burn the glories of heaven, and with the other extinguish the fires of hell, and men might learn to serve God from love alone, without fear of hell and without temptation of heavenly bliss. To preserve morality thus demands a brave man prepared to face even death. It is cowardice to be true to friends and to break faith with enemies. Those who do good out of fear and haltingly have no moral virtue. Henry Clay, known for his kindliness, sacrificed his convictions to his ambition. Daniel Webster, for all his great intellect and a sense of heroic and the sublime, once sold his intellectual integrity for a price. By a single mean act, he wiped out all his good deeds. This shows how difficult it is to judge the morality of man's action, because we cannot penetrate the depths of his mind. We have also the answer to the question raised at the outset of this chapter. What is moral action? Incidentally, we also saw which kind of men could live up to that morality. So here, Mahatma Gandhi is trying to say that if you are thinking or having an interest in the material gain on this earth, as it is non-moral, so similarly, if you are thinking of doing something good for your future in another world, that is after your death, so if you are hoping that you will get comfort and personal happiness by doing something good over here, then that is also considered as non-moral. Only the actions that you do for the sake of doing good is considered as moral. So here he is giving few examples of some great personalities. One was Saint Francis Xavier, who prayed that his mind might always remain pure. That is, his devotion was not to get a higher seat or gain popularity. All he wanted was to pray, because it was the man's duty to pray. An example of Saint Teresa. She always wished to have a torch in her right hand and a vessel of water in her left. Why? With the torch in her right hand, she would burn the glories of heaven, and with the other, she would, that is with the water, she wanted to extinguish the fires of hell. She wanted to make sure that the people understand to serve God from love and not because of the fear of hell or temptation about the paradise. So we shouldn't have any discrimination between friends and enemies. We have to be fair to both, and you should always do something good without fear. Henry Clay, for example, he was known for his kindliness, but here he was accused of having forsaken all principles in the hope of winning support for his presidency. So that was an accusation there. Again, there was Daniel Webster. He too was a great personality, but he too, because of just one mistake, he lost his integrity, or he sold his integrity. So by a single mean act, we wipe all our good deeds. It's correct. If we do hundreds of good things and one wrong, people will judge you because of that one wrong, not with that 100 good things that you already did. So this shows how difficult it is to judge the morality of a man's action. So we cannot understand why, because we don't know what they are thinking. It's in their mind. So here, by in this entire chapter, you come to know exactly the first question that was asked: what is moral action? So you know what is moral action and how we should live in the entire world with morality. I do hope you have understood this lesson. If you have any doubts, you can comment below, and keep watching for more videos, and do like and subscribe to my channel, and stay safe.